KARE 11 breaking news now.
Welcome back to the second half hour of KARE 11 News at noon, also streaming live. We start this half hour with breaking news. In the last 10 minutes, Vance Boelter was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years for the political assassinations of Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband and the shootings of Senator John Hoffman and his wife. The Bureau of Prisons will decide where he'll serve it after Boelter requested to be moved to a facility down in Florida. A lot has happened over the past few hours, so let's go to live team coverage outside of the courtroom for more details.
Yeah, Cece, it was 2 grueling hours of victim impact statements before Vance Boelter learned his sentence. Now, I'm joined by Gordon Severson and Danny Spewak. Both were in the courtroom as that sentence was handed down. First, Gordon, I want to ask you, tell me a little bit about the family's reaction. And essentially, this is a day that they've been preparing for, and yet it was still very fresh and emotional.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just emotional for us to hear, and the strength that it took for so many of these individuals to go up there in front of nearly 200 people and to share like their story of what happened. I think of the Hoffmans, all 3 of them individually spoke. And I think we have a quote that we got from Senator John Hoffman praising his daughter for her quick actions that night, saying, quote, "My daughter fought to save us. She decided hope and courage. She displayed more courage in one night than this defendant showed in 40 years of preaching Minnesota laws to devoted public servants." And when she went up there, it just crazy to be able to see that she had the strength to go and talk in front of all those people.
Yeah, and you know, in addition to the family members who spoke today, there is also the whole political implication of this trial and of this sentencing, I should say, and what happened. Danny, tell me a little bit about the politicians who spoke and gave victim impact statements as well.
Audrey, this was obviously a shocking act of political violence, among the worst, certainly the worst in the state of Minnesota's history. And one of the things that really stood out was some of the comments from Representative Kristen Bonner, of course, who Boelter visited her home. She happened to not be there on the morning of June 14, 2025. And then from the House DFL leader, Representative Zach Stevenson, who was really an understudy to Melissa Hortman for so many years, very close friend of hers. And they both looked Boelter in the eye and looked at him and said, "You attempted to cause terror in our life. You attempted to try to dissuade us from doing our jobs as political leaders, but you failed," what both of them said, looking at him and telling him in his eyes, saying that you have failed to deter us from being public servants and that we're more committed than ever to do the job. And I thought that those 2 really eloquently put that out there in court this morning.
And Gordon, you said that Vance Boelter's final statement was 18 words long, and there wasn't really a lot of time to react, but give us the gist of exactly what he said.
Basically, just said that he was sorry for all the pain he caused. I believe it was 18 words, and immediately afterwards kind of turned to go sit back down. And then the judge kind of was like, "Well, I'm going to keep you up here to kind of talk a little bit more about the sentence," because it was wrapping up at that time. And so, he read it quickly, decided like he was going to sit down. I know, some of the family members question, his sincerity with something like that. But I feel like no matter what he would have said, they wouldn't have found any closure in it. One thing that really stood out to me, and you mentioned with Representative Bonner, when she mentioned that she said, "I would have opened that door if a police officer came," and knowing that if she would have been home, she probably would have been another victim. That was a powerful thing to hear, and to her talk about how she probably would have had her grandkids there and feeling the guilt of being a public official and potentially putting them in that danger, something she never really considered, was something that was really powerful that stood out to me.
Yeah, and we all know that this isn't really the end of this case. We know it's the end of the federal proceedings, but the state is bringing its own separate case against Vance Boelter, and those proceedings are set to start in a little over a week and a half's time. So, Cece, with all of that, obviously this is a big day in Minnesota, a lot to still talk about, a lot of conversations still to have. But for now, I'll send things back to you.
Yeah, a lot of eyes have been on this. Danny, Gordon, Audrey, thank you so much. I mean, like they mentioned, families and friends having to relive those moments in the courtroom today. So a very tough and emotional day. But again, to recap, Vance Boelter sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, still waiting on learning where he'll serve that time. He did request to be moved to a facility down in Florida, and also waiting on those the state sentence to come down. So of course, we will continue to follow this story and reaction to this story throughout the day. You can find that on air here and also streaming on the KARE 11 app.